Greetings, everyone. My name is Rick Morrow. I'm the chair of the Northeast Task Force with the Presbyterian Committee for the Self-Development of People, and I welcome you all to this meeting and this very important ministry. I am going to do a devotion for this morning.
Using the link that the national group sent you? Sorry.
I'm from the I'm from the Presbyterian Committee for Self-Development of People. And I'm doing the devotion today for this meeting. I have to apologize that I can't stay, but things are out of my control. I'm trying to get better. My devotion was going to be called, I'm praying for the will of God and the ways of God. And the way this is set up is somebody talking and then having God answer. And I think that this is really important in these days because, let's face it, this is not the happiest of times. People are frustrated, people are scared. And this kind of gives you some context of what we're, in that kind of situation. And on top of that, SDOP is an answer to helping people. And I think that this nice dovetail. So if we all ready, let us pray. Mighty and most holy God, I have a troubling question to ask. I know I border on presumption to query the creator of all things, but it's been bothering me considerably. Here is my question. How closely tied is your will with your ways? Your will seems filled with all goodness and light, but your ways seem filled with constant lingering and delay. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, nor are your ways my ways. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. Yes, and that is what troubles me. I believe I want your will, but I'm not at all sure I want your ways. But if I don't want your ways, then maybe I really don't want your will. You see my dilemma. I understand your will to be connected with peace on earth, justice, righteousness, and the like. But when I look at your timing for bringing all that about, well, excuse me for saying so, but I am not exactly impressed. For as the rain and the snow come down from heaven and do not return until they have watered the earth, making it through, bring forth and sprout, giving seed to the sower and bread to the eater, so shall my word be that goes out from my mouth. It shall not return to me empty, but it shall accomplish that which I purpose and succeed in the thing for which I sent it. I say I must totally reorient my perspective if I'm to value your ways. Rain and snow seem so weak, so ineffective, so slow. I want things to be impressive and strong and efficient. It's the time thing that troubles me the most. Why must your children wait so long and see so much suffering before your will comes to pass? The Lord is not slow about his promise, as some think of slowness, but is patient with you, not wanting any to perish, but all to come to repentance. Yes, that I can understand. The delay is out of love and respect, and I do want to enter into the sense of your cosmic patience, but it still seems like your people have been waiting for a long time. I yearn to see the kingdom in its fullness. For you shall go out in joy and be held back in peace, and be led back in peace. The mountains and the hills before you shall burst into song, and all the trees of the field shall clap their hands. Yes, I look for that day. Even so, come Lord Jesus. I think it's important to understand that we're not necessarily in control of our lives. We need to have the faith and move forward. And I think that this SDOP certification training event will help us accomplish that. I look forward to meeting you in the future and wish all good luck and God bless. I now have to head into my laboratory test. Thank you and have a good day.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you. And you have a good day too. And best wishes with the hospital visit there.
Okay, thank you then. And bye all.
Bye. Alonzo?
Wonderful. Well, I'm going to echo the welcome that Rick has sent you. Welcome to this incredible ministry of the self-development of people. I'm Reverend Dr. Alonzo Johnson. I am the coordinator of the self-development of people, and we are really excited that you are here. We are excited that you are ready to be certified and take this journey together. in doing incredible and most needed anti-poverty ministry in our communities. As we do our welcome, I want to lift up two people, Maria Maraquin and also Phyllis Sanders. They are our new National Committee members. And so welcome. And in this time, I'm going to introduce myself, and then we'll give some time when you introduce. Just let us know who you are and what presbytery you come from. And so, and we can start with, I think, Wayne, are you scheduled to say something first, to start up first by introducing yourself?
Not really, but I'll echo everybody else. We do indeed welcome all of you to this great ministry for such a time as this is really needed all over the United States of America, plus our sisters and brothers in Guatemala and Puerto Rico, and also in Nicaragua. But we are thankful for all of these great committees of these presbyteries that have shown up today by Zoom. COVID-19 has affected every aspect of life, but as we say, the ministry must go on. We need to make sure that we continue to press towards the mark of the high calling of Jesus Christ, where God has called us all over the land. So we are indeed delighted and welcome and glad that each and every one of you are here and present. We pray that in 2021 that we will get a chance to see each and every one of these great presbyteries and their committees and assist you in the great work that you are doing in the area that God has called you. And also at that time, we will try to reinforce this training on.
It looks like we lost Wayne. Wayne, are you there? Okay, I will, I can go next, and then when he joins us back on, we can keep going. I'm Margaret Marley, and I'm the Associate for Community Development and Constituent Relations for SDOP. And along with what was just said, welcome. We look forward to spending time with all of you. And a very special welcome to Palisades Presbytery SDOP Committee. They are a brand new committee that will be getting certified for the first time today. The other committees, we're all getting recertified, but we are delighted to have all of you on this call. Who would like to go next? Okay. I think if you can, as we go around, if you can please share your name and then the presbytery you're representing. Thank you.
I can go.
Good morning. My name is Cynthia Featherstone, and I'm with New Hope Presbytery and Faith Presbyterian Church. Our pastor is Antonio M.K. Lawrence. I'm delighted to be here. I'm all new to this, so I'm eager to learn.
I'm Marion Gregg Whited from the Presbytery of the Palisades, and my pastor is Reverend Dr. Gloria Tate at the Presbyterian Church of Teaneck.
Thank you.
Cornell Hampton, New Harmony Presbytery, and retired Presbyterian ministry, and a former member of the National Committee on Self-Development of People.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to mute everyone just so we don't have the echoes, and then as you get ready to speak, please unmute yourself. If we could have the next person go, please, anyone?
I'm Gilda Wall.
I am Humphrey Moriah from the Presbytery of the James.
I'm Mary Jane Winter from the Presbytery of the James. I'm a pastor, and I've been with Self-Development of People for about 8 years, and very excited about being here with all of you.
I'm a Beverly Bullock, a pastor, minister, member of the Presbytery of the James.
Gloria Tate, pastor of the Presbyterian Church of Teaneck, member of Presbytery of the Palisades, and have done some work with self-development of people over the years. And I say hi to all of those of you who I haven't seen for 20 or 30 some years. Hello.
I'm Wendy Badgery. I'm from Presbytery of the Palisades, a member of Old Bergen Church, and I'm new to this, but I look forward to serving.
I'm Jack Lohr, Presbytery of the Palisades, and I've been recycled back into self-development of people. That was a 40-year t-shirt that I'm wearing. I'm an honorably retired member of the Palisades Presbytery.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm Felicia Hardy from New Hope Presbytery. I'm a commissioned ruling elder there and a vice moderator for the Synod of the Mid-Atlantic. So I am very excited to be here and thinking about my good brother Etheridge as we are starting on our work here and appreciating everything that he has done. So glad to see everybody on this call this morning.
Good morning. This is Lamar Lockhart from Presbytery of the James. We are doing what we call an audio because our internet is down and we were not able to be on the video, so we are in the office. We'll be part of the training. Lamar and Deborah are together.
You forgot to say Presbytery of the James.
Hello, I'm Jill Young. I'm with Presbytery of the James, and I attend First United Presbyterian Church. This is my second certification, so I'm glad to be here today. And see
both of us need to be on the call if there's an echo. So,
My name is Dwayne Hicks. I'm from the Presbytery of New Hope in North Carolina. And I am right now trying to find out why two of our members who said that they were going to be here aren't here yet. So I'm texting them to find out if they can join shortly. So, I am the moderator of the New Hope Presbytery SDOP, and we have a good committee and we're beginning to gear up for good work this year. Thank you.
I'm Robert C. Johnson, Jr. I'm a member of New Harmony Presbytery. I'm a ruling elder in G.W. Long Presbyterian Church in Cheraw, South Carolina, where Reverend Kyle Henderson is moderator of session.
Good morning. I'm Tamisha McKellar from New Harmony Presbytery. I'm a member of New Bethel Presbyterian Church in Dillon, South Carolina.
Good morning. I'm Curtis Kearns. I'm a Presbyterian minister serving with the Presbytery of the James Self-Development of People Committee.
Good morning. My name is Lynette Glass. I will be the newest member, I believe, of the Mid-Kentucky committee here.
Good morning. My name is Shantae Powell. I'm a member of the Presbytery of the James. I attend Afram Presbyterian Church, where Reverend Humphrey Mariah is my pastor.
And Shanta Paul is our new SDOP member, attending her first certification.
Yes.
Welcome.
My name is Steve Houston, and I am the pastor at the Ramsey Presbyterian Church, and I am also the chair for the council in Palisades Presbytery, and will be serving as a liaison between the Presbytery and the committee.
Welcome. Do we have everyone? Is there anyone that has not had a chance to speak?
I'm Julie Cox. I serve the Presbytery of New Harmony as the Associate Executive Presbyter and Associate Stated Clerk.
And I am Barbara Dixon from New Harmony Presbytery. I attend First Presbyterian Church in Chirral, where I'm the organist, and I'm a new member of this SDOP committee.
Hey, Phyllis, I think, are you going to say something?
Who?
Phyllis Sanders?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can.
Okay. I'm Phyllis Sanders. I'm the Vital Congregations Coordinator for Trinity Presbytery in Columbia, Lexington, South Carolina.
Welcome.
So, hi everybody. This is Maria Marroquin from Mountain View, California. Very grateful with this technology because it allows me to be with you in these very, very important moments in our lives. Thank you for having me.
Welcome, Maria. Okay, we actually have Wayne back on the call. I think I saw him a minute ago. Wayne Steele, are you back on?
I'm back. I don't know what happened. My system went down completely.
Okay. No worries. Glad you're on. So, sure. Is there anything else that you wanted to say to finish off your intro? I think you had started your introduction.
Yeah, the only other thing is that I'm Wayne Steele, pastor of Peace Presbyterian Church here in Louisville, Kentucky, and I am moderator of the South Task Force in our area. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Wayne. Okay, we're going to remind folks to mute yourself if you're not speaking, just so we can hear each other a bit better. And we wanted to
Margaret,
mention,
one of my people from New Hope has joined, Christine Fenno. If you would give her a minute to introduce herself.
Great.
Christine.
Kristen, you may have to unmute yourself. Okay.
Try now. Are we okay now?
Yes.
Yeah. Oops. Is it back? Okay. I hope everybody can hear me. I've been involved with self-development of people for many, many years, and began active when John Etheridge was working on it. He, of course, you know, he's in Africa now. So, I just think it's a wonderful organization. I try to help out the best I can. I'm a lay pastor. I'm not a ordained, but I preach to older adults, and I used to go to the Albemarle's closed now because of the pandemic, but I still keep in touch with some of them, and I talked to one of the members the other day, and he's fine. He's distancing himself when he eats, and in the dining room he has to have a table to himself. So these are different times for everybody, very hard times for a lot of people. So that's about all I have to say.
Thank you, Kristen. Thank you so much and welcome. Okay, we did want to mention that we will be recording this. So we wanted to share that up front. We will move into the next section, and Alonzo will lead us in that part. I will share my screen with all of you. We have some slides that we'll be using for different points of our presentation.
So one of the things that is really important about the work we do is the biblical basis and the foundation with which we do this work. Jack Lord. Jack said basically he was back recycled into the self-development of people family. And the reality is that self-development of people is a family, and it's a growing family, and we've been growing since 1970. It's a growing family with so many folks who've been doing this work, who've been engaged in this ministry. Our history is powerful. Our work is powerful. Our engagement with communities is powerful. But one of the most powerful things about who we are is how we are engaged in Scripture. Before I get into the history, I do want to mention some of the scriptures that are really key to self-development of people. Of course, Matthew 25, as you all well know. We as the Presbyterian Church USA have become, are looking to be Matthew 25 congregations, a Matthew 25 church. So we're building our theological outlook on Matthew 25, the idea of Jesus's voice and Jesus being found on the margins. Some of the folks that have been really helpful to us in this exploration in Scripture and theology and anti-poverty, you know, of course, Jesus, of course, folks like, you know, James Cone, you know, womanist theology, folks who have been concerned about the poor, Gustavo Gutierrez, you know, liberation theology, and also some of the things that we have been really excited about reading and engaging. So Matthew 25, its companion is basically Isaiah 58. And if you look at those two scriptures, they both talk about what do we do about taking care of God's people when they are poor? What do we do about bringing clothes to those who need it? Visiting those in prison, doing the work of God and recognizing the face of Jesus Christ in those who are disinherited and those who are on the margins. And so the biblical basis for SDOP also is, you know, Micah 6:8. You know, we know that one, you know, to love and to live and to walk humbly with God and to do God's work in all times. And that has been really kind of the fuel, the theological and biblical fuel for SDOP, to remember that we are called by God to do this work in this day, and that God has ordained us in God's love and in God's care, and in the ministry of Jesus Christ, we do this, and we never forget this. Even though we are not a proselytizing group, I mean, you know, we work with community organizations, as many of you know. We don't proselytize, but we do live the gospel by making sure we walk alongside and listen to those who are doing the work of anti-poverty and the work of development. So those have been really powerful for us. And so getting into the history, I think I'm ready now, Margaret, for our history slide. Our history slide is James Foreman. How many of you are familiar with James Foreman? Have you heard about or heard? Okay, so James Foreman, for those of you who know who James Foreman is, you know that James Foreman is a very controversial figure in civil rights history. And there's been a resurgence of a lot of Foreman's concerns. Foreman was part of the, he was part of the civil rights leader. He's part of the Black Panther Party, part of SNCC, you know, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, part of the International Black Workers Congress, and also the Black Economic Development Conference. And basically, James Foreman was concerned with the fact that specifically African-American communities not having access to economic power, and also because of systemic racism, African-American communities and communities of color being disenfranchised from power bases, media, business, education. So these were concerns to the civil rights movement as a whole. But for Foreman, Foreman has worked with the Black Economic Development Conference to come up with something called the Black Manifesto. And the Black Manifesto was a powerful document that demanded, it basically was a document about reparations. And this is important because for many different reasons, but especially as the conversation about reparations is resurgent. You know, it's important to remember that this is an ongoing conversation. And Foreman felt that, you know, one of the things that's going to be necessary in addressing the issue of systemic racism and white supremacy is that not just white society of the United States, but white religious society of the United States would need to be involved in the process of paying reparations. So the document that the Black Manifesto laid out what this looks like. And Foreman basically demanded $500 million in reparations from white churches and synagogues and said the money will be used for 9 different projects. If any of you are interested in having the document of the Black Manifesto, we can send that to you so that you can get a sense of what that is. You can go to the next screen, Margaret. And so what James Foreman did that was really radical, among many things, is that he took this conversation on the road. One of the first places he went to was Riverside Church in New York City. He went in, interrupted services, and basically read from the manifesto. So in true protest form, not unlike, the protests that we see in the street today, Foreman went in and read this manifesto. Of course, word got around that Foreman may be coming to you, and the word got around that Foreman may stop at various churches and do this. And so in 69, and I think this was about May 1969, the great Reverend Dr. Gaylord Wilmore, who was a looming figure in the Presbyterian Church USA, Black theologian, who we just lost him this year, Brother Wilmore. But Gaylord Wilmore and several other African-American Presbyterians invited James Foreman to speak at the 1969 General Assembly, and basically, and that's the 181st Assembly. Foreman came. He read the Black Manifesto, and as you can imagine, Presbyterians were outraged. Some of them were angry, some of them were upset because the demands were powerful. And although the message was uncomfortable, in response to the Black Manifesto, there was a conversation in the church about what is the church's responsibility to address the issues of systemic racism, but also create opportunities of economic equity. And the church, as a theological body, as a people of Jesus Christ, has this obligation. And so 2 particular programs were created. One was called PEDCO. And PEDCO was almost kind of it was almost like a small loans kind of program that would give Black businesses small loans. And the other program was the self-development of people. So we have come out of, our existence comes out of the concern for reparations and also the concern for economic equity. And a year later, the first meeting of the National Committee of the Self-Development of People was held December 29th to 30th. And that was, I believe, the Chicago General Assembly, 1970. And the committee was met with a mandate from the assembly to start to do this work. And so if you go to the next slide, Margaret.
Okay, there's a bit of a lag.
There's a lag, that's okay. So as the lag is happening, I'm not sure which issue it's going to be, but in one of our, let's see, we've got in one of our Presbyterian magazines, I just wrote an article about reparations and basically SDOPs, being born out of this. And so the power of SDOP is that we were born out of a response to addressing the issues of systemic racism. And we were also born out of the response of understanding that people, communities, communities have power, communities have voice, and communities, can actually address the issues that we are concerned about, and communities need access to power. So in the Presbyterian Outlook, and I'm not quite sure which issue it'll be, but in one of these upcoming issues, I talk a little bit about this history of self-development of people in the context of reparations. And so one of the things that we have been working on at SDOP as we think more about what does it mean to be an anti-poverty ministry? What does it mean to do this work amidst the triple pandemics? Because we're living in a triple pandemic. You all know this: poverty, racism, and COVID-19. And so what does it mean to be a ministry of hope in these pandemics? So one of the things that we have been talking about as an organization, especially as a national committee, is strategizing. What is our strategy as SDOP? What are the kinds of pillars that hold up this work, and so that we can continue to be a voice of justice in the church, and also a voice of hope as we walk alongside communities. And there are three things that we have come up with in our strategic plan that lays out the kind of pillars of who we are in our relationships with one another, and in our relationships with the church, and in our relationships with communities. And one is accountability. One of the things that's really important is how are we accountable to each other in this ministry, and how do we do this work together? How do we continue to stay, to be honest about who we are and authentic in this work? And so this is a powerful piece for us. Being accountable to the communities in which we serve, being honest and accountable and walking alongside them. And also, and part of that accountability is listening when communities call us to accountability. Because here's a big secret. I'm a Presbyterian minister. My home is New Jersey. So shout out to all you Jersey folks. I was born and raised in Newark, New Jersey. That's my home. When I was growing up, I knew of the great Reverend Gloria Tate in Teaneck. So, these are folks that have been legends to many of us Black Presbyterians that are coming through. And one of the most powerful things, in doing this work is, how do we stay authentic in this work? And how do we continue to listen? So here's the thing I have to say about Presbyterians. We don't know everything. And I know that may come as a surprise, but we don't know everything. But our communities, they know best what they need. They know best how to address the issues that they face. And so we learn from our communities. And that accountability is, in some ways, it's listening. It's listening to our communities, listening to one another as we continue to do this work together. And this is, and part of promoting self-development of people is being accountable to the mission, making sure that the word gets out, making sure that people know who we are, and that people are able to connect with us and do this work with us. The other piece is education, right? How do we, and for many of you who have been a part of SDOP for a long time, pillars Curtis Kearns, I've heard mention of some of our folks who have been a part of this for a long time. That education is important. Getting the word out about self-development of people is one of the keys of getting people to be involved in this work. And so the education is important. We educate the church on how SDOP can be a resource to them. And this is important because what we want the Presbyterian Church to understand is that we are one of the church's premier anti-poverty ministries. And people can connect with the communities through us, and they can connect through this work. So you as local committees, you are doing the work of anti-poverty. You are engaging, you are doing this work. And this is really powerful and important. The third piece is connectivity. How do we stay connected with one another? And they all they are all, if you can see it as a Venn diagram, all of these pieces are connected. To be accountable is to be connected. To educate folks is to connect with folks. And so the connectivity is, how do we continue to keep the word of SDOP alive and well and in the mouths and hearts of the church? Because it's a powerful and important ministry, as many of you know. Somebody mentioned John Etheridge, who is, another pillar in self-development of people, folks who have been working in this ministry for a long time. And you know very well how important it's been. We've seen in our cities, we've seen, how SDOP, both, nationally and internationally, the difference that we have made in communities, but also the learning that we've gained from communities that helps the church be enhanced about how it can address those issues. You can go to the next slide, Margaret. This is our mandate. Write it on your hearts. Remember this mandate as you are doing this work, because it is about carrying out the commitment to economically poor, oppressed, and disadvantaged people who own and control and benefit directly from projects that promote long-term change in their lives. And of course, this was an important statement, as it was then, as it is now, Because the idea being that SDOP is not paternalism. You know, we don't do charity. We're not interested in doing for people. We believe that people could do for themselves. We believe that communities are places, havens of great development and great knowledge and great power. We believe that the church has a lot to learn from communities who are doing incredible things. We believe that people have power. And we believe in that people power as communities put their power in addressing issues of poverty, whether it be prison, whether it be lack of employment, you name it. And for many of you who are familiar with the history of SDOP, you know the diversity of the work that SDOP have been involved. And so the mandate is something we write on our hearts in some ways, because we remember that this is about us learning, and this is about walking alongside and partnering with. I don't know if Faye Fedlam is on the call. Faye is the chairperson of the Mid-Kentucky local SDOP, and Faye Fedlam points out that it was really SDOP in the Presbyterian Church that leveraged that language of partnership and recognized the importance of this language, this non-paternal, non-toxic charity language of partnership. What does it mean to walk alongside, walk with, and be available to communities who are doing their work? And so these are some of the things to think about. I might be getting thin on my time here. I think, Margaret, if I'm not mistaken, I think you may actually have the next piece. Am I correct?
OGHS.
Oh, I got a little bit. Okay, now that's fine. I can do that.
Yeah, go ahead.
That'll be fine. So one good hour share. So how is SDOP funded? And we're going to talk. Margaret will talk a little bit about this later on in the conversation too, as we'll talk a little bit about the details of how this all works. But just a preliminary, how are we funded? Many of you are aware of how we fund it, but it's really important to know that we are funded by the One Great Hour Sharing, by the church's offering. We don't get money from the Ford Foundation. We don't get money from the Lincoln Foundation. We don't get money. We get money from the pew. And this is from those who are faithful and who give to the special offering of the One Great Hour Sharing. And this is our primary source of income. And basically, we share this offering with both the Hunger Program and PDA, Presbyterian Disaster Assistance. And this is the breakdown. Breakdown is that we get 32%. So when folks get to the One Great Hour Sharing, this is how it breaks down. 32% goes to self-development of people. 32% goes to Presbyterian Disaster Assistance, and 36% goes to Presbyterian Hunger Program. And that includes a 4% because they do, they address issues of homelessness through community organizing. And so this is the breakdown. So if anybody in church says, why should we give to the One Great Hour Sharing? You as SDOP people will say, because this supports our ministry. When you give to the One Great Hour Sharing, you are giving to the work of SDOP and the work of the larger church and our work as local committees to walk alongside communities and be able to, to help fund communities who are doing incredible work. And so that's something to keep in mind, that the One Great Hour Sharing is our primary source of giving. And again, that primary source of giving are people, church folk, folks in the pew, folks who believe that the church is doing incredible things. And so that's something that to always remember and to always keep close to you, is that the One Great Hour Sharing is our primary source of income. And I think you have the next one, Margaret.
Sure. Thank you, Alonzo. And for those of you that are chairpersons, you would have received earlier this year notification indicating how much is available for your committee to fund projects with. And so this is the breakdown that we have been talking about, the 32% broken down into the committees that we have. Each committee, depending on how much was raised within the boundaries of your presbytery, would have then had a certain amount of money $7,000 that can be used for that purpose. So we will move into the criteria for funding. And one of the things that, especially for those of you perhaps that may not have undergone one of the certification trainings before, that we want to make sure that we're all on the same page is the purpose for our time together today, in order for your committee to be able to be really familiar with the criteria, so that as you move forward to fund projects, you will have a very clear understanding of the types of projects that you would be looking for. But another thing also, the reason we do that certification training is, yes, to certify you as a committee so that you can fund projects, but also to share any relevant updates, and to get to meet all of you. There are a lot of people on this call that I have personally not met or spoken with. All the chairpersons, we have spoken, we have interacted, but it's such a pleasure to see, in addition, committee members as well. A few of the committee members we've met pre-COVID, but so those are the goals for having this training today. So back to the criteria. You would have received several attachments to an email sent a few weeks ago, and the handbook, which is referenced there towards the top of this slide, was one of those attachments. So the following standards are used to determine if a project is valid for funding consideration within the ministry. And these are the things to be looking out for as you are discussing potential projects to fund. The project needs to be presented, owned, and controlled by the same group of people that will directly benefit from it. So a question that I would invite you to ask actually as you look at a project is, are the same people that are going to be in direct control of this project the same people that are submitting this project to us as a committee? Are they the same people that will make decisions about the project, meaning they will have ownership and control over the project? And if the answer is yes to those questions, then most likely it would be a project that you can move forward with considering to fund it. The project does need to address long-term correction of conditions that keep people bound by poverty and oppression. And also the project needs to describe in detail its goal, i.e. the point of the project. What are its objectives, i.e. the specific steps the group will take to accomplish their goal, and also the way the direct beneficiaries would be involved in all stages of the project, and the methods to be used to achieve the goal. So one of the things at the national level, as committee members, task force members are reviewing applications, that they'll sometimes ask is, is this a do for? Meaning, are the people that are going to be doing this project, are they the same people that are going to have the ownership and control, or no? So if it's a do for, it basically means that it is one group of people trying to do the project for another group of people. So that is hopefully something that might be helpful to all of you also, as you are looking at project for funding consideration. Okay, so let's take a look, having looked at the criteria, at what SDOP is. SDOP is about human dignity. And I think you may have, you may recall that some of that came through as we were learning or being reminded of the mandate of SDOP and learning about its history. It is about self-reliance and community growth. And it's a partner in long-term solutions. So there's that word again, partner, because we seek to work to come alongside with potential projects in a non-paternalistic way. And it's also about the empowerment of people. So these are the things that SDOP is about. What SDOP is not, it's not a crisis fund for emergency situations. So if you receive an application that says they are in a crisis situation and they need emergency funding, as much as we recognize those situations do happen, SDOP is not about that. So in that case, then you can refer that group maybe to another resource. But with regards to what SDOP is, It's about long-term change, as we saw from the previous slide, and trying to help communities to overcome the systems that propagate the things that have held them back. So SDOP is not a provider of funds to social service agencies, which is why we do not fund, for example, just one entity that comes to mind is an entity like United Way, for instance, because they turn around and in turn give that money to communities. We want to directly fund the communities that we're working with, whether it's at the national or the local level. SDOP is not a provider of scholarships. And also SDOP is not a financial institution for personal loans or grants, which is why, for example, if we are approached by a group that wants to engage, let's say it's one person or two people, and they tell us that they want to do a private enterprise project, that's not something that we can fund. However, if we are approached by a group of at least 5 people, because we need at least 5 people for projects at the local level, and they tell us they're trying to do a worker-owned business cooperative project, that project is one that your committee could, if it wishes to do so, consider for possible funding. Okay. All right, so while congregations and other organizing groups are encouraged to reach out to communities and provide help to groups as they develop projects, the projects once again must be presented, owned, and controlled by the groups who will directly benefit from them. And for those of you that have been engaged maybe with other entities or programs that do funding, you will recognize that this is a very unique funding criteria, the way SDOP seeks to partner with groups and to ensure that this criteria here is met. It's really very unique. Okay. So what is a valid SDOP proposal? Who should apply for funding? Okay, there are a number of you on this call that have funded projects previously. So you will recall once again that the criteria needs to be in effect. So you would be looking at it through the lens of the criteria that we have just finished discussing for it to be considered a valid SDOP proposal. May I ask if you are not muted to please mute yourself? I think sometimes I'm getting an echo. Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. So who should apply for funding? It does need to be groups that are low-income groups. They need to be, once again, groups that will directly benefit from, own, and control the project that they are presenting to you for possible funding. We're going to look at some examples of previous funded projects and also actually some that have not been funded that we wanted to share with you shortly. Okay, so there's some upcoming discussion questions, and what we ask for each of these is that for each case study that follows, that you share with us whether you think the project proposal appears to meet SDOP funding criteria. If yes, why? If no, why not? And also, if there's any missing information needed, we ask that you would please explain that to us. So we will jump into that, and this is something that all the presenters are actually participating in. So let me start us off with this one, and then Wayne, if you can share the next one with us. So let me, okay. So this is the first project. Could we have someone read, anybody please, if you can just quickly unmute yourself and read for us what's on the screen.
What is this? Why is it? Is that me? Is that me? Okay. We are a resident-led organization of 300 that seeks to improve and secure our neighborhoods from crime problems. Our community does not have an adequate network system and/or facility. 90% of us are in the category of low or lower income in the city, and we lack medical care and legal advice. Who owns, initiated, and controls the project? The women and men of the neighborhood community initiated the supporting network system. The members of the community, through the elected board members, control the ongoing activities. Who benefits directly from this project? The members of the community and their families.
Thank you, Dwayne. All right, so we have talked quite a bit about criteria. Could we hear from those of you that think that this project, if it came to your committee, would fund it? And we want to hear from those of you that think, no, I don't think I'd vote to fund it. Anyone, please jump in. And remember to unmute yourself.
Yeah, Gloria Tate. First, there would need to be some questions answered in terms of what are the specific benefits. You know, how does the network work? Yes, the grassroots organization is 300 members, but when you begin to flow the activities, how many do they really impact and how do they impact them? So we would need to ask some questions about how that network works and you know, how people are directly benefited. What are the activities?
Great, thank you. Others?
This is Beverly.
Or no? Okay.
Oh, this is Beverly Bullock. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, one of the questions I would have is, do they have any specific ways in which they are seeking to improve and secure those neighborhoods from crime? Something that they could begin to address, that they could possibly contribute to. To me, it's a little bit too broad. It's admirable, but something that they could sink their teeth in to work on.
Great, thank you. All right. So it sounds like so far what we've heard is more questions need to be asked before making a decision. Is there anyone that right off the bat would fund this or would not fund it?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm not answering that question directly, but I would, as I look at it, I think I would like to determine how they're going to evaluate the success of it.
Okay.
But then you can go back to your question, but I was just looking for it.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, thank you all for your responses. I do want to ask you all, as you look at the last two sections, does this project appear to fit the funding criteria based on what we've talked about so far?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, it appears to meet the criteria. So that's why we could go further into it and ask specific questions. But it does appear to meet the initial or general criteria.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Thank you all for your responses. And this project was an actual project that SDOP funded. And you're right that looking at this, there are questions without the remaining information that's needed to make a decision. But yeah, it was funded, and thank you again for sharing. Wayne, could you lead us into the next one? Wayne Steele?
Yeah, okay. I'm still having problems, but I will try. The project is a business that provides professional care service to customers at reduced and special offer prices. We feel that this project is needed because it serves as a community-based facility that is aimed towards giving high quality service to the people that wish to look attractive and professional. Ms. Jill owns the project because the original ideas and foundation was set by me. Nonetheless,
Oh.
what did you do? What did you do? You went to 3, huh?
And
I'm sorry.
You doing a 3 on me?
No, I'm not sure what happened here. Okay, sorry about that.
Maybe with me. Nonetheless, all 3 control the project because we serve as a team that has the common goal of working together and taking responsibility for succeeding or failing with this project. Who benefits directly from this project? Any questions?
This is Colonel Hampton. As I look at the project, it appears to be a due for a project. And I probably would have problem funding this project because it's being done by somebody else. And you don't have the community or the person who is being done for on the project, nor do they control the project. That's I probably wouldn't fund the project.
Okay, any other thoughts?
This is Gilda Bonamere, and I would not fund this project. It doesn't appear to meet all of the criteria, specifically the one about ownership of it. It appears to be owned by, it appears that the ownership does not necessarily, the people who are going to be benefited are not necessarily owners of the project. So I would not fund it.
Anybody else? We batting 100 so far. Anybody else?
I would vote no as well. It says there are 3 decision makers, and I thought we needed at least 5.
5 or 10? Okay, good. Very good observation with this project, and you are absolutely positively right. This project does not fit into the criteria of SDOP for basically for things that you have already mentioned. It seems like Sister Jill is really in control of the project, and it so that again, you are right on line with not meeting the certain criteria of SDOP. Anything else you would like to add on, Margaret?
No, thank you. All right. Alonzo, I think you have the next one.
One more question, Margaret. Was this a project that was presented to us?
Yes, this was presented, and like everyone was saying, it was not funded for the reasons that just were shared.
For the reason that they were stated.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much for your input on that project number 2.
Go out.
Okay. Alonzo, did you want to take that one?
Yeah, I'm ready. Okay, so this is for the win, everybody. So since we're set up like the Hollywood Squares, this will be for the win. This is project number 3. And what is the project and why is needed? The project is transportation. There are 2 different types of transportation needed. The first type would be transportation for the general public, not limited to, but to include transportation for the economically disadvantaged for work, training, shopping, and childcare. This would link with the county bus and the Greyhound. The second type is specialized transportation for the elderly, mentally impaired, and physically disabled with medical destinations. Who owns and controls the project? FIN, non-emergency transportation, is ran and owned by the 45 group members. They are the decision makers. They control every aspect of the program through a voting process at monthly meetings. a board of 7 directors was elected as agents by the members to run meetings and see that things that they voted to be done were carried out. Who benefits directly from this project? The 45 members, mostly with families, totaling about 100 people. All right, what say you all? Would you fund it or would you not fund it, and why?
This is
I would
interesting.
be fun. Oh, I
Gloria
would
Tate.
fund it. Oh, you're talking Pastor Tate? Okay.
Go ahead, go ahead.
I would fund it because I know a lot of people who don't drive who could benefit from the county bus services. And especially the elderly and the disabled. I would fund it.
I guess this is Colonel Hampton again. I guess before I would fund it, I probably want to know how the disadvantaged or those who are being benefit from the project, how involved are they in the decision-making process? I think it's a project that is needed, but are those people involved a part of the decision-making process that they're doing it for?
Yeah, Mike, I kind of follow up with you in terms of those who benefit. The 45 members, they are part of the board, but are they actually the folks that are described in the first paragraph? You know, the 45 members are in the second paragraph, but are they really those in the first paragraph? So I'd have a lot of questions about this. It sounds good on the top, but.
I agree.
I want to agree with that. I need to know more about what the Finn non-emergency transportation is. It sounds like that's the core group. But clearly they're not just addressing the needs of the 45 families, they've also got the general public. It is providing a service. I'd want to know more about how it addresses the causes of oppression and seeks to produce long-term growth and change.
Okay.
I'd like to ask a question. Isn't this funding a business? Is that one of our purposes?
I have the same issue as well. Is Finn non-emergency transportation a business? Is it an incorporated business? Or is it a volunteer organization?
And are they asking for money for the vehicles and driver payrolls?
Okay.
Office managers who would coordinate all this? I mean, it definitely needed, but is this one of our purposes, is to set up a business?
And just to reiterate, it seems like it's very clear the first type would be transportation for the general public. And I know what SDOP funds generally is not for the general public. So I would have a question about that.
Anybody else? All right, let's see what's behind door number 3. Margaret, did we fund this or not?
We did fund this. We did fund this, and those are great questions. This was actually a project on a Native American reservation out west. So yeah, it was funded.
So I think the questions you all are asking are important, and you get the complexity of what it means to look at these programs. And I think in the process, as we do this, what I am incredibly empowered by is the fact that, yes, as Lynette just mentioned in the chat, context matters, and you all are asking the right questions. Who does this? Whose is this? What is this? And I think a lot of nuances that we don't always get, that or nuances that doesn't always come clear through writing. But this is why we do site visits. You know, just as I think it was Barbara who mentioned, is this a business? That'd be a good question to ask at a site visit. So what are you? Are you a business? How'd you come together? And so, but you all have the gist. You are all coming into the oneness of SDOP thinking, where you are asking the right questions about, is this for the, just as Joshelle mentioned, is this for the general public? And what does that mean, as opposed to being for the people who, own and control it and direct, and benefit directly. So these are the kind of questions. And I think a lot of it, just as Margaret mentioned a little while ago, I think the way we do things at SDOP is so counterintuitive to the way grants operate, right? Usually we give you something because we're going to do something for you. But I think the questions that we have, when folks are sending these things in, it's counterintuitive to say, oh, wow, this is for us. We're writing for us. We are the voice. And this is not, writing for a group of people, but for themselves. And so asking those questions, this is the richness of this program. And what you'll find, and especially for many of you who have served SDOP, this is not always easy, right? I mean, this is why it's good to have a group of people and some different, a group of kind of hive mind here, right? It's good to have group dynamics, because sometimes these things are not as clear cut. And they might be, and there may be things in these descriptions that are just like, okay, wait a minute, I like this, but this is a little questionable. And you'll have to wrestle with those things. And I think that's the beauty of this process is being able to make those relationships, because more than likely you will have to call them. We need some clarification about this. Who are the 45? What do you do? And I think these are the kinds of things that create and promote the kinds of relationships needed. Good job, you all. That's really good. We all win in this particular.
I ask some questions.
Yes, Barbara.
Does the group we're helping have to be affiliated with the Presbyterian Church USA?
No.
Okay. Is it possible to help a single person with the help of the single person, but a group guide that project? Is that possible?
Really, it should be groups. And I think the second example that Wayne mentioned, that because with a single person, we're not quite sure how many people really benefit, right? The idea is that the community benefits, right? Okay. One of the things that, if you take, what we find really helpful is, for example, if you have if we get a single folks or a single person may come out and say, I've just got out of prison, I want to do these kinds of things. It's best for them. And we have said to folk, hey, who around you in your community has a similar situation as you do? Because if you need it, there's more people in your community that may need the same kind of services. There's more people in your community that may need the same kind of training. And so getting people to be thinking collectively about, how we do, how do we seek healing and wholeness collectively. And so that's one of the best ways to do it. And this is why the Jill example is her business and we're helping her business. Well, we want to be able to walk alongside community and benefit a larger number of people. So keep that in mind. So that's why we don't do, solitary businesses or single people, because there's a community aspect involved in this.
Okay.
Question. Can I ask a question? I cannot be seen, but this is via Lamar Lockhart, related to the same information. If we had a group who owned and funded a community garden, and the vegetables were controlled and owned by, let's say, 10, 12 people, it doesn't matter. They own the garden, they raise the crop, they harvest the crop, then they create a market where they can sell the vegetables. Now they gather, let's say, X number of dollars from the sale of the vegetables. They have vegetables left over that they didn't sell. Would they have to take those vegetables and distribute them among the members of their group, or could they give them to the community, or would that matter?
I see Margaret ready to answer. Margaret, what say you?
That's a great question, Lamar. So in the example that you are describing, that could, for instance, be an income generating project, which then means that they would be selling the produce in order to supplement their income. So there would still be the direct beneficiaries in that case. The people that they're selling to are the means that they are able to make that income. So that's a great question. Just very quickly, just want to make sure we're on the same page as far as businesses. So if there are at least 5 people, again, at the local level, it needs to be at least 5 people that are part of a project. If there are at least 5 people and they want to do a worker-owned business co-op, that is okay. They can do that business as long as they are the ones that are going to be, all of them equally benefiting from the business/project. When they make a profit, the profit is equally distributed amongst them. They all have leadership in decision-making and how the project is being run. It's not one person's business. So that's, that's a major difference between the two. So just to make sure, if you are approached by a group and they want to do a worker-owned business cooperative, they can, versus, if it's just 1 or 2 people. Okay, really good questions.
And Lamar, and they can, they can choose to give that fruit, what they don't sell, to whoever they want to give it to. Just as Margaret mentioned, because we have a program that we funded a lot like what you're mentioning, where there was community folks in the community, the community garden, they had a farmer's market, and and once if they decide they're gonna give fruit to somebody in the community, that's fine. But the reality is that that they that it's owned and controlled by that group and that community.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure. Before we jump, Wayne is leading us into the next section, but I'm wondering, okay, my screen is frozen again, so let me stop sharing for a minute here. But I'm wondering, Wayne Steele, before you lead us into the next section, there was mention a little bit ago of a site visit. We have several new people on this call. Could you speak to what a site visit is, please, and what has happened pre-COVID when you've done site visits and how you're doing site visits now, please, as a South Task Force?
First thing is that all of you have asked and raised some very important questions. And a lot of times what happens is we will either email or send a letter or get on the telephone and try to answer some of those questions. After we get a positive response from a lot of those questions that you have raised, we determine whether we should have what is called a site visit. And a site visit is basically you physically going to a site and look at it to make sure that everything that they have put down on paper that you can see with the naked eye, because you want to make sure that they, if they put on the paper that is 10 or 15 people, but you go and do a site visit and there's only 1 person, that can easily throw up a red flag. So we strongly encourage you to go and to do a site visit. And once you do a site visit, then you would ask them all of the question, get a visit of the area and see exactly what is going on physically. Right now with COVID-19, the denomination has basically said no travel is allowed. So we've been doing site visit by Zoom. It's not the same thing, but it's as close as you can come with meeting with everybody by Zoom. You get a chance to see them, and you want to make sure, once again, when you do a site visit, you're not just doing it with one person, but you're doing it with a group of people. So it's very important to make sure that you do the site visit, whether physically or by by Zoom, okay? So that you can answer those questions that you have raised. And I am encouraged by the depths of the questions that you have raised, because it also shows and tells me that you're going to be good stewards of SDOP funds that's available for people in need. And also keep in mind that one thing about SDOP, you trying to empower the people, not just give them a fish to eat, but you're trying to help them become the fisher so that they can have an everlasting effect of fishing. Okay? Thank you, Margaret.
Thank you, Wayne. Okay, so yeah, if you want to read up some more on, in fact, we encourage you to read up some more on how to do a site visit, and that should be in your handbook, or feel free to email any of us. Okay, I think, Wayne, you also are leading us into the next section of telling the story of SDOP in your church, Presbyterian Synod.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
Sure.
Cynthia Featherston, I think this will be brief. Just, is there a time limit associated with any of the projects? For instance, in this pandemic environment, if there is a need, for instance, within a community to do something with the school system, for instance, and parents and communities being able to educate their kids with this kind of uncertainty around it, but it's not something that expects to continue for a while. Is that something we would consider? I'm thinking about things I've heard of, like pandemic pods, where groups of people within a community get together with their children, and they hire the assistance of a teacher or tutor or whatever in order to educate their kids, particularly those kids with special needs that can't do the hybrid kind of models and go to school. They need more structure around their learning.
So your question was whether there's a time limit?
Yes, would they be able to do something like that, knowing that it's not a project that they would intend to continue post-pandemic?
Really, what happens is that, so for example, for 2020, whatever funds that your committee, the committee chairperson in the letter that they received, whatever funds are indicated are available for your committee to fund projects with, those funds would need to be requested before the end of this year. So you, in turn, what that means is that for the committee chairperson to request funds to be released to fund a particular project, that would mean that your committee would in fact have received an application, a grant application, which we will quickly look at today. They would have received that application from that potential project. And let's say that project is asking for $5,000. So then when the chairperson submits the request for payment, it would be requesting the national office release $5,000 to your committee. So that's how that would work. And then beyond that, really it's up to the committee to move forward with, doing the site visit as we talked about, and all those other things. And then you would work out with a group how things are going to work. Does that help? It does? Okay, good. Great question. Okay. So Wayne, could you start us off telling the story in your church, Presbyterian Synod, please?
Alonzo, you want to try to address that based on the meeting that we had yesterday?
Yeah, I think depending on what you're referring to exactly.
Well, I'm referring to the fact that it seems like she is raising the question of something we talked about, some COVID-19 money funds.
Yeah, let's do that later. Let's do that later. But I think
my sister who just raised that issue, we may come back and give you some more information that Margaret just gave you to try to help you, because Margaret mentioned the fact, you know, the end of the year, and we trying to work on something to be sooner than to be later. Right, Alonzo?
Yeah.
Okay. So
yeah,
we're gonna come back. We're gonna come back to that.
Come back to that.
Okay. I don't want to leave it because that's a very important question that she raised that I feel dear to my heart, that the National Committee is trying to address that issue at this particular time, okay? But back to the story. Brothers and sisters, we got a powerful story to tell to the church, to the presbytery, and to the Senate. But it's like the Bible talks about, we have a powerful story to tell to the nation, that we need to be out there telling it everywhere that we go, even from the rooftop. I'm strongly encourage all of South Task Force, self-development of committees to please try to get time on the docket of your presbytery, so you can have 10, 15, 20 minutes to be able to tell your story. Some of you who are perhaps commissioners to the Senate, I strongly urge you and encourage you to try to get 10 to 15 to 20 minutes on your Senate docket, so that you can talk about self-development of people, talk about what is going on in your area. And please, when you meet and you decide to fund a group within your local area, please make sure that you get the word out among the churches in your area, and also make sure that it be a part of the newsletter for the presbytery. And I strongly urge you to try to make sure that you make the front page of your presbytery. We have found out that the more we tell the story, the more people have a tendency to want to do more, but not only do and volunteer more, but they also would be willing to give more. And the more that they give, the more that you can give out to organizations and projects that are within your community. I won't get into, I know Alonzo is probably, Margaret is coming back with self-development of people Sunday, but that is indeed a great resource for you. Also, if you go on our denominational web page under self-development of people, there is some great information that you can use, great literature that you can use, even great information that you can pass out at your presbyteries and at your Senate meeting. And you know, don't wait for self-development of people Sunday in your local church. Get the information. And also I encourage you that you become a voice, an advocate for self-development of people, and get invited to other churches to talk about self-development of people. Okay, Margaret?
Thank you, Wayne. So we did speak earlier about one great hour of sharing, and we already heard, you know, where does the money that SDOP is able to fund projects come from? It comes from OJHS. The Special Offerings Office does a wonderful job with promoting the offering, and then as Wayne was speaking, each of us as well, being a part of SDOP, both committee members, whether at the national or local level, as well as staff, we're all part of telling the story. And so we really would encourage you to do that. And as we look at what's happening around the country with the COVID-19 situation, there is such a pressing need even. There always is a pressing need for SDOP. But I think looking at what's happening around the country where so many people are losing jobs, where the rate of poverty keeps going up, and there's just so much disruption in communities, a lot of poverty, there is so much need for SDOP. So we really encourage all of us to continue telling the wonderful story of SDOP. SDOP Sunday, that is coming up in the spring, and we will be sharing additional information moving forward. For those of you that have been part of the SDOP committee for a while now, you will recall that you typically receive a resource that lays out some projects funded at the local level, at the national level, that really tell the story of SDOP that we encourage you to share with your congregations. And now, of course, with the challenges of remote sharing, that is something that, you know, as part of your congregation, you will need to be creative in how that can be done. And again, of course, we here at the national offices are always available to be of help in whatever way we can. So we will be in touch further about SDOP Sunday. And as we look at the SDOP Sunday webinar, Alonso, I wonder if you could speak to that part, please.
I want to speak to the webinar, but first I want to say that how many of us as Presbyterians are connected to PCUSA website? How many of us go to it, visit it, or look at it? Good, good. And the reason why I mention this is because this is where you're going to get some of your material to promote SDOP. I say that because, you know, our communications department will run articles on us. Folks like Lamar Lockhart can tell you how important it is to advertise. Lamar will call us and say, hey, I need brochures. I need these kinds of things. You need to do that. You know, Lamar can help. If you ever have any questions, talk to Lamar, who's on this call. He can tell you how important it is to make sure you keep SDOP in the face of our churches and our presbyteries, but also connect to that website. Because this way, and two things. One, the website will have, again, there might be an article on an SDOP project that you know, that is out of sight. I think all of them are amazing. But it may be an article that you can actually share with someone and say, here's why you should give to SDOP. Here's an article that just went out about, you know, We the People of Detroit, an organization that's you know, addressing the issues of water. You know, here's what you want to give to this. And so the SDOP Sunday is, again, it's, if you also get, how many of us get the Presbyterian calendar? How many of us have a copy of the calendar? If you do, if you don't, I would urge you to order one. If you do, the Presbyterian calendar every year has, it marks SDOP Sunday. There's usually something in the calendar about it. And one of the benefits, and here's where you all have the benefit. The collection day for SDOP, for One Great Hour Sharing Money, is on Easter Sunday. That's when everybody goes to church, right? Everybody decides to go to church. So that's a perfect time. Even those who are in the, quote, Secret Service, who don't come to church normally, but they show up on Easter, right? The Secret Service folk. That's when you get all the, that's when you get a higher yield on collections. And so keep an eye on SDOP Sunday. and could stay connected to the website. So the Sunday webinar is something that we want to put together. Just as Margaret mentioned, you know, in this time of pandemic, in this time of not being able to travel, we want to stay connected with you. And Zoom is that way of doing it. And I know that we've all become zombies, right? Zombies, as they call it, right? We've just been on one Zoom call after another. But what we want to do is, with a webinar, is just kind of go over the kinds of things that we could be lifting up in our congregations, in our presbyteries, and just talk a little bit about how we can promote SDOP Sunday. And remember, and here's the thing, and many of you are aware of this because you do this work. Many of you will become more aware of it. But sometimes, don't assume that people know what SDOP is. We've been around for 50 years. Our symbol has been everywhere ever since I was a kid. That symbol has been everywhere. But here's the deal. Not everybody knows who we are. Not everybody, sometimes people don't know who SDOP is. And it's and for us, this is a good opportunity to be able to educate them. So the Sunday webinar will give us some ideas on how we can promote SDOP Sunday, right? What kinds of things can we do in church? You know, we have liturgies. The staff can give you some resources that might be helpful to you. There's a peacemaking resource that I wrote for them about poverty that has hymns, links, all kinds of stuff. We're more than happy to get some of those things to you. We have all kinds of resources. And so that Sunday webinar piece, what we want to do is kind of help guide you as you promote SDOP. And as you lift up, and you hear voices from folks like Lamar, you hear folks who've been doing this, who know, exactly how to make sure you are seen in presbytery. And especially in getting ready for that SDOP Sunday. This year we were not able to have, because of COVID, and it was April. So this is around the time, March, April is around the time churches are still trying to figure out how to be virtual and vital, right? And because of that, a lot of churches, Presbyterian churches, did not have in-person services, so they did not get the chance to kind of lift up SDOP Sunday. But this time, we want to be able to do it virtually. We don't know what's going to happen next year. We hope that there's a vaccine and we'll all be able to go back to church. But we want to be able to at least do a hybrid, right? If we are able to get back to church, great. But we want to offer a webinar to say, hey, here's the kinds of things you can do to lift up SDOP Sunday and put that in front of the congregation. If you're on a mission committee at your church, we have incredible pastors here who, lift these things up. Use that minute for mission. Create opportunities for Bible studies to talk about some of the things the projects that and the projects that's been funded. Good way to lift that up. So we want to do a webinar for you to kind of walk along with ideas and ways you can stay connected. But I will, again, just encourage you, stay connected to the PCUSA website, because that's when you're going to get a lot of good information. You will get articles that come out of there for SDOP. Stay connected to our website, because we'll give you a list. Margaret creates a list of projects that we've funded. And so therefore you can get a sense of, oh, wow, here's a project I can lift up, and continue to think thematically, right? Think about what's going on in your own community. Think about what's going on in the world. One of the things that was important for us as we talk about the need to address the issues of Black women and girls, we lifted up a project out of New York City called Black Women's Blueprint, and put that in front of the church and said, if you want to support Black women and girls, here's a project where you can begin to do that. Here's one place you can do that. And SDOP, we are a group of many issues. And we can help you. Staff can help you. Whatever you need, you call us, let us know what kind of resources that we can help you with, and we can set you up. So that webinar piece is going to be helping us interpret the message and find ways that we can interpret the message. And part of that is sharing with those who've done it too. Those who know, how do you get this in front of Presbytery? And those who know that, okay, if you're going to get this in front of Presbytery, you got to do it a month ahead of time so they can get for the these kinds of things that we need to talk about. How do we lift that up? So we will let you know what's going on. You will not miss the message. We will put this thing together, get a date, and make sure that you will be able to connect with the SDOP Sunday webinar. And we will more than likely plan to record that too, so that for folks who may not be able to make it, it still can be a resource for you that you can take it and say, hey, here's some ways we can lift up SDOP. So that's basically it for the webinar and those pieces.
Okay, thanks, Alonzo. So the next piece that we are going to move into, and I'm not sure my screen keeps freezing, so I will just start speaking while I'm trying to go back in. We are going to talk about developing two-way partnerships with social services and nonprofits. And so one of the things that you want to be thinking about is and to be thinking in advance rather than waiting until maybe a couple of months, you know, before the end of the year. What could we fund? We would encourage you to start developing relationships with nonprofits in your area, with social service agencies, because those can be helpful in terms of helping connect you or link you to other to organizations that may actually fit the SDOP funding criteria. So we would really encourage you to do that. And the other thing that you can do, so for instance, you may have the Urban League, maybe where you live, there's probably a United Way, or even for those committees that have funded projects in the past, you can connect with the projects that you have funded previously and ask them if they know of other groups that might be looking for grant funding. One of the, Faye was mentioned earlier, she's the chair for the Mid-Kentucky Presbytery SDOP Committee. And so one of the, she's not on the call with us today, but for instance, something that as that committee is looking for projects to fund that they have done is earlier this year, I think it was earlier this year or late last year, Faye and I had the opportunity to meet with a local nonprofit here in Louisville. And so she has kept up that relationship, and a few weeks ago had asked them whether they would be willing to share or to connect her and the Mid-Kentucky Presbytery SDOP Committee to groups that might fit the SDOP funding criteria that we've been speaking about. So we encourage you to really take advantage of, you know, the nonprofits where you live. They may not be the ones that would fit the SDOP funding criteria, so they cannot be funded by SDOP, but they may very well be able to connect you to groups that may fit the SDOP funding criteria. I'm looking at the time, and in the interest of time, we'll try to move through the next items fairly quickly. We do want to talk about community workshops. Some of you have been part of SDOP for a while. You're familiar with community workshops, but some of you may not be very familiar with them. And for this section, we will also have Presbytery of the James, the chairperson, and perhaps others sharing what they've done in terms of community workshops and how they've tried to promote SDOP within the Presbytery of the James. So I will simply very quickly speak to the purpose, and then I will hand it over to them. So what's the purpose of a community workshop? It is an opportunity that SDOP has to connect with groups that may fit the SDOP funding criteria. So it's one of the ways that SDOP uses to be able to specifically identify groups. The other thing that I would encourage you regarding community workshops is that sometimes what you will find is that perhaps the organizations that come to your community workshop don't fit the SDOP funding criteria, and that can be disappointing. But I would encourage you to not give up, because those organizations may play the role that I was mentioning earlier of connecting you to groups that may actually fit the funding criteria. And sometimes you will get groups that fit the funding criteria that come to the community workshops. And when you do, that's always really heartening. And then you would just need to, make sure that you follow up with them, that they move forward with the application and so forth. So at this point, I would invite Lamar. Lamar, are you on the call still? Okay, I think he may be muted. Let's see.
Okay. Okay. Yes.
Okay, go ahead, please. Thank you.
Okay. I represent the Presbyterian of James, and we have organized so that we have one person who is connected with the Chesterfield County Library, a member of our committee, and we have another person who is a historian, who is Curtis Hearns, and so he does the history review. And before the pandemic, we scheduled through the library as a partner to put into a publication that comes out multiple times a year when workshops, grant workshops are going to be offered. Now, the actual application for the workshop goes through the library website directly into the Presbytery, and then they connect us as to how many people have signed up for the workshop. And these workshops usually are during the week, and we provide a light refreshment, and we do a history, and then we do a grant application review, and we answer questions, and from that point on, we reschedule the next workshop. This has been halted due to the pandemic, and so now we are hoping that we may be able to set up a Zoom workshop. We have not gone that way yet, but we're thinking about it. But again, we are organized that the library is our partner, and we have a committee that is dedicated to making this work. So we've been successful at that over the last 2 or 3 years.
Thank you, Lamar. That was great. And so are there any questions for Lamar based on what was just shared?
So this is Cynthia. So the library is your partner to help facilitate the technology behind getting the applications from one place to another, as well as to just provide additional bodies, or are they doing something else as well, the library itself?
I'm going to ask any member of our committee to jump in here because technology is better understood by some of the younger members on our committee. But one of the things I found out, and I guess know that the library is a community, I guess location for many workshops, that many workshops take place in the library. Mm-hmm. And so they put out a publication, and it lists the date, the time for all workshops, not just SDOP, but SDOP gets a place there, and they also provide shelf space. So when we order the brochures that come from the Presbytery, SDOP distribution center, we are given space to put those brochures in the library along with other handouts that are available to the public. So they're picked up and read by people going in the library for other information. But if anyone else on the committee wants to make a comment here, please do.
I'll just add one comment, and that is that the Chesterfield County Library System is a large system. And so what we get to do is rotate our workshops among the various facilities that the library system offers. And the library system is very community oriented. And so they provide the facilities, they will do the advertising, as Lamar has said, and are very helpful in presenting us an opportunity to connect to the people in the library area and community.
This is Beverly Bullock, also a member of the POJ SDOP. And the library also has very up-to-date dedicated business centers for the community. And when workshops are being held, they also bring this information to groups who may be interested, who may need the facilities or the resources that the library can provide. So that's an enhanced resource as well.
Thank you. Hi, Curtis.
Thank you, Lamar, and the rest of the committee there for James Presbytery for sharing your insights. And the other thing that we would encourage you to do is, if you would like to partner with National SDOP in planning a workshop, we certainly would be delighted to do that in partnership. And we, at this point, because of COVID-19, we're doing everything via Zoom. So we've had several community grant workshops by Zoom. So if you're interested in that idea, so for example, if you are a committee in the South, you could approach the South Task Force. If you are a committee in the Midwest, you would approach the Midwest Task Force and so forth. And again, if you contact any of the presenters, I think you, the chairpersons, you have our email addresses. We can speak more about that if there's interest there. We also, for some of you may have already had opportunity to visit the SDOP website. The application that you will be sharing with groups that you may want to fund is on the website. Okay. I believe I've muted everyone, so I'm not sure why I keep getting feedback. I did not mute you. Kindly mute yourself. Okay, let's see. So you can get the application that way. But the other thing I would also encourage you to do is there is a, if you look on the right side of the website, you will see a link that reads regional committees. REGIONAL is the password with the R in caps to enter that private website. And in there, you will find some items that would be helpful to you as part of a local SDOP committee. Okay, so we mentioned the grant application that you can get that off the website. Again, because our time is limited, we're not able to jump into that. But if you have questions, please feel free to be in touch. The chairpersons typically, well, this year as well, we did have a meeting with the chairpersons to go over the grant application. So you can check with your chair as well if you have questions regarding the grant application. Okay, I think we are now at the point where we can do the Q&A. And I wonder, Alonzo, if you can start us off with that, please.
Yeah, I'll start us off with that. And this is just following up on what Brother Wayne Steele mentioned very quickly. And it's hard to go into detail right now because we don't have a lot of time. But SDOP, as many of you are aware, Presbyterian Disaster Assistance have been giving out grants for COVID-19 work. And so we have very limited funds to do a similar thing. But as you all remember, we were going to celebrate our 50th anniversary in Rochester this year. So we were excited about this. We had put some money toward that, and we were going to have folks come and be involved. And because of COVID-19, we were not able to do that. So we decided to take that dollar amount and put it in the form of a grant that we can provide for communities. Now, the application will be released very soon. It's not out yet, but it will be out in probably in a few weeks. And basically it's open to everyone. And a lot of it is really, it's a departure from how we do things normally, in a sense that, overly controlled, but we do understand the emergency with which, and the immediacy in which communities are really trying to make things happen through COVID-19. As we all know, COVID-19 has changed the game on how we live. It has changed fundamentally how we do things. And so we will have that, and basically funds are limited, and it's kind of a first come. And but this application will be out and available for you to look at. And if there is an organization that you think would benefit from this, that would be great. The details are basically that it would have to be an organization that is preferably in an epicenter, preferably an organization that is working with vulnerable populations, elderly folk, differently abled, what we now call BIPOC, right? Black, Indigenous, people of color. And so, and whatever ways that you folks who have been affected, that's what we'll be looking at. So we're going to prioritize folks who, if you've looked at the news and you've read the statistics, we've run several different webinars. Native communities have been affected greatly. I mean, in the sense that we haven't talked about it in the news. So Native communities, of course, as we well know, African-American community, highly affected by COVID-19. And so these are the kinds of things that we're looking at. These are the kinds of programs that would be, eligible. Again, funding is not, it's going to be short. The grant will not be around for a long time, but when we put it out, we will let you know. And so if you know of organizations that can benefit from this, you'll get information about it, and you can encourage them to apply. And a lot of the application process will be very similar to programs who apply to us for national grants. It will come through the national office. And then depending on where the program is located, it will go to that task force. And so that's about all I could really say about that right now, especially. And then when the application comes out, we'll make sure that you are aware. And then if there's any questions about that, then we'll be more than happy to answer them. But any general questions about today, about SDOP, about anything that could be helpful for you before we leave this call? What can benefit you in this work?
Hey, Barbara, it looks like you'll need to unmute yourself.
Yes. You mentioned the handbook, and I'm looking at the website. How do I get a copy of the handbook? I don't see it on the website unless I'm just missing it.
Right. No, that's okay. Well, a couple of things. One, it would have been in the email that was sent. I can resend it to you. That probably might be the easiest way. Can you, could you please put your email address in the chat?
I'll try.
Okay. Okay. Just what committee are you part of?
New Harmony.
New Harmony. Okay. All right. I can find it.
I can send something to you.
No worries. I can find it since I know which committee you're part of.
Okay.
We should have it. Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Second question, are you encouraging a Sunday for 1 great hour sharing and a separate Sunday for SDOP funding offering?
No, the SDOP Sunday offering it points to the 1 great hour sharing, right? It's always done before the 1 great hour sharing offering is collected. So this SDOP Sunday is always done before Easter. Easter Sunday is the day that we collect 1 great hour sharing. So what you want to do is you want to promote SDOP for the collection of that offering. Now, people are welcome to give directly to SDOP, but we usually encourage folks to make sure that, they are giving to the 1 great hour sharing, so all of our programs can benefit. And so we lift up the SDOP Sunday so that we can point to the 1 great hour sharing offering on that Sunday, on Easter Sunday.
Thank you.
Margaret, Alonso, this is a question I asked when we had our committee moderators as well. Because of the COVID-19 situation, we were late getting started in our publicity for applications this year. And I'm a little worried that we're not going to be able to get too many of them in before we run out of our deadline. I am wondering, considering the fact that the offering for 1 grade hour sharing this last year was probably substantially down because of decreased participation, is there any consideration being given to taking some of what we raised this year and moving it into next year's funding potential? If we don't get a grant or two to fund this year, and we don't use all of our money, I know that some of that goes to support national offices, but is there any potential of moving some of that into next year? Perhaps you still can't answer that. I'm just wondering. I would hate for us not to be able to have the money that was raised this year available next year when I'm sure the funds will be much reduced.
Yeah, that's a good question, Dwayne. It's here's the tough thing. Of course, as you can imagine, and this is happening everywhere, right? We have made where we were being urged to make cuts in our budget for 2021 and 2022. And a lot of that is, just as you mentioned, is based on the projection of low offerings coming in. So that question is hard to it's hard to answer right now. We've just found out about the cuts and what cuts we need to make, and that was about 2 weeks ago. So now we're looking at the budget and trying to figure out exactly how to, how we make that work. This year, I would urge whatever you can do this year to do it. Find whatever programs you can do this year. And we are continuing to kind of try to figure out, and I hate to kind of push it off that way, but unfortunately, the way the cuts are working, we really don't yet know exactly what we will have, right? And so right now it's difficult to I can't promise anything, especially carrying over to the next year. But I would urge you that whatever you can do this year, do it. If there is something, we will let you know. And we are still asking, because now that we finally have received word on high about what cuts need to be made, where they need to be made, we now have a budget that we have to look at and kind of work with and see what we can do for next year. It's so difficult because we don't know. I mean, it's all projection. We don't know. I mean, the churches may decide, hey, we're not going to let COVID keep us down. And as churches are continuing to modify and create more opportunities to give virtually, this could be good for the offering. We just don't know. We know that it's down now because of COVID, but it could pick up. But we've now just been told, okay, here's what you need to do. And now we have to look at what we will have. So we will let you know about that. But whatever you can do now, Dwayne, do it now. Try to do it if it's one project, if it's, try to do the best you can now. And then we have to see. That's all we can do, because we really don't know yet what's going to come in.
I realize you guys are in a bind,
yeah.
Your budget as well as our budget. So, okay, we were just late getting started, and I'm
okay.
Hoping we can get it done. Yeah.
Okay. All right, this sounds like everybody's ready to go. Any other questions before we go? I know it's 12 o'clock. We are probably all hungry, and we are probably zoomed out, I'd imagine. But if there's no more questions, Margaret, do you want to close us out, or?
Sure, I can do that. Thank you again, everyone, and we really are grateful for your partnership with all of what's going on that we have talked about, both across the country and in our own cities. So let us pray, please. Thank you, God, for the ministry of SDOP. Thank you for all of these committee members and the hard work that they are doing in their communities. thank you for their gifts that they bring as we seek to partner with communities all across this country that are economically disadvantaged, poor, or oppressed in some way. We thank you for the gift of the one great art of sharing that makes this possible. And we ask that you would be with us in this work as we continue to do it. We ask all of these things in your name, Jesus, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Lord. And thank you, everybody, for being a part of this. We're excited about you and about the work of SDOP, and we're excited that God's ministry will happen despite COVID, and will do the work of the Lord in addressing anti-poverty. And so we thank you for all your energy and your heart and your willingness to be able to do this work. We thank you so very much.